You expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Mr. Mainway, your company manufactures the following so-called harmless playthings. Pretty Peggy ear-piercing set, Mr. Skin Grafter, General Tron secret police confession kit, and Doggy Dentist. And what about this innocent rubber doll, which you market under the name Johnny Switchblade? Press his head, and two sharp knives spring from his arms. Mr. Mainway, I'm afraid this is by no means a safe toy.
Okay, I just want to correct you on one thing here, okay? First of all, the full name of this product, as appears in stores all over the country, is Johnny Switchblade Adventure Punk. No, I mean, nothing goes wrong. These little girls buy them, they play games, they make up stories, nobody gets hurt, So Barbie takes a knife once in a while, or Ken gets cut, there's no harm in it, as far as I can see,
During his time on the show Saturday Night Live in the early 80s, actor Dan Aykroyd wrote a script based on a concept brought up by his childhood interest and belief in the paranormal. The film was conceptualized as a group of people who are called in to hunt ghosts, kind of like a type of paranormal exterminator. Aykroyd initially intended to star in the film with his friends Eddie Murphy and John Belushi. However, those plans were cut short after Belushi's death of a drug overdose in 1982. Aykroyd instead turned to fellow SNL cast member Bill Murray. Bill jumped at the idea and was on board immediately. Based on his work on films such as Animal House and Stripes, Ivan Reitman was chosen to direct the film and also help write the script. Another recruit came in the form of Harold Ramis, who was recruited to co-star as the group's third Ghostbuster alongside Aykroyd and Murray, as well as help write the script.
Swing 'em hard! Ready!
Ghostbusters, starring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver.
Before too long, on June 8, 1984, Ghostbusters was released and started a pop culture phenomenon that has spawned 3 sequel films, 1 reboot film, and 2 animated series. What's up, cinephiles? Welcome back if you've been here before. I'm Thomas, and this is Thomas Goes to the Movies. The Ghostbusters films hold a very special place in my heart. I was introduced to the original 2 by my grandpa as a kid, and I've been watching them regularly ever since through the years. I haven't missed a single new film, and honestly, I have to say that I can't name a single film in the series that I won't watch. Yes, even that one. So with the recent release of the latest film in the series, Frozen Empire, I thought I'd take some time and go through and rank the Ghostbusters films from my least favorite to my favorite. Usually I like to avoid spoilers where I can in videos like these. However, some minor spoilers will be hard to avoid this time around. That being said, I'd like to go through a big old spoiler alert for these films, especially Ghostbusters Afterlife. I really can't describe my feelings on that movie without going into major spoilers, so without further ado, here's my ranking of the Ghostbusters movies. Starting off with my least favorite in the series, we have number 4, Ghostbusters 2016. To be honest, I don't hate this film in the same way as the rest of the internet seems to. In aspects, in fact, I actually enjoyed this despite its placement on this list here. I don't know. Maybe it's my innate cynicism when it comes to the internet discourse pertaining to movies. No, I don't think this film does anything overly offensive, and I do genuinely think that a lot of the hate that this film gets had a lot to do with pissed off fanboys upset about not getting the Ghostbusters 3 they really wanted. For the most part, this film just seems like a retread of the original 1984 film with a more feminine coat of paint. The biggest sin this film seems to carry with it, as far as general audiences are concerned, is that this is a reboot that doesn't carry on the story or the legacy of the originals. It is the first Ghostbusters film to be released after the passing of Harold Ramis, arguably the heart and soul of the franchise as a whole. Sure, most of the actors of the original films return here, however, they don't appear as the characters they originated, but as glorified cameos, if anything else. On top of that, it doesn't help that half of the 4 new Ghostbusters are just written so poorly. You could see what they were trying to go for with the new stars being derivative of the original Busters, and half the time they succeed. Kate McKinnon's character is obviously supposed to be like Egon, while pushing the mad scientist shtick harder than Harold ever did. She completely steals the show, and she's by far my favorite new Ghostbuster. Yes, that even includes the initiates from Afterlife. F***ing sue me. The major issues I have with the main cast comes from Kristen Wiig, who I remember being a comedic powerhouse in the early 2010s, but here, she's just an awkward curmudgeon who thirsts after Chris Hemsworth's character. That's really all that's going on with her character. They start the film off with an interesting plotline where she might lose her opportunity to get tenure at the university she's working at, if they were to discover her Ghostbuster shenanigans, but that runs its course after the first half hour, and then all we're left with is, ooh, I want to f*** Hemsworth so hard. Not quite what I'm looking for if I want to watch a movie with a strong female lead, is all I'm saying. Then you have Leslie Jones's character, which is probably the absolute worst thing about this movie. Alongside Wiggs' character, it's just very clear by the execution, the way she's written, the way that Jones plays her, that Patty exists solely to be the black one. There's not a whole lot to her character besides that. They add this little tidbit that she knows a lot about the history of the city and can use that to help with the ghost-busting cause, but much like Wiggs' character, that falls by the wayside and only pops up when it's convenient to the story. Really sets back all the groundwork that Ernie Hudson laid back in the 80s, and the fact that Leslie Jones's character and Ernie's 2016 character are tied together by blood is nothing short of a travesty. This film isn't perfect, but it sucks that it had to make it this low on this list. However, something had to be on the bottom, and for me, and to most people in fact, it would be Ghostbusters 2016. Next up for number 3, we have Ghostbusters 1984. I'm going to take some flack for this, I'm well aware, but it's true. The original 1984 Ghostbusters is just above its 2016 counterpart. Even as a kid, I don't think I ever understood the hype of this entry outside of that it's the one that kicked the whole thing off. For that, I give it mad props, and I respect it for what it did for cinema, but just doesn't hold my attention the same way that the rest of the franchise does. If I'm being honest, the thing that keeps bringing me back to this entry is, well, the people. This film boasts an ensemble cast that features not only Ghostbusters, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson, but also includes Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis in supporting roles. These are arguably some of the most popular characters played by these iconic stars, and it's easy to see why. Most notably, I absolutely love Moranis' role as Louis Tully. He's delightfully awkward and a lot of fun to watch and bask in his misfortune. He reprised the role 5 years later in the second film, and Moranis hasn't been acting lately. However, based on what I've seen, he's slowly been getting back into the craft. Would love to see the return of Louis in Frozen Empire. Boy, I'm sure that statement will totally age gracefully. I guess we'll find out soon. I think the biggest complaint that I would levy against this film is that it's the originator of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Now, hearing that, you're probably all like,
well, that's fine, but I don't see how that affects... What?
What the f***, man? What's your beef with Stay Puft? And to that I say, cool your jets and let me explain myself. I don't find anything inherently wrong with the Michelin Man's cursed love child. However, I'd be lying if I said that getting Stay Puft Marshmallow Man references in not one, not two, but seemingly 3 films in a row just feels like they're running this classic character into the ground. I don't know, maybe I'm just nitpicking, but I can't be the only one experiencing Stay Puft fatigue. Luckily, I don't have to worry about any Stay Puft shenanigans in the next entry. Now, for those of you that didn't click off of the video after that last segment, we have number 2, Ghostbusters 2. Talk about one hell of a sequel. It completely overshadows the original, in my opinion. I just really love the direction they chose to go with this one. Choosing to wait a few years to see where these characters ended up was fantastic, and seeing New York City's paranormal heroes down and out of business already really has you invested. They, of course, don't stay that way for long. When Weaver's character Dana is experiencing some supernatural phenomenon around her child, the boys go back to business to help their old friend out. It's just really cool seeing these characters return and see what has happened to them since we last visited this world, something that we very rarely get to see in the future, For the longest time, this was the only true sequel to the original film, and I'd like to think it was the reason this franchise became such a cultural phenomenon. The absolute high point of this film has to be its villain, Vigo the Carpathian. With his domineering scowl and his big booming voice, he is most definitely one of the most terrifying villains I've ever seen in film. That's another thing this movie has over the others, I think. This movie is absolutely fucking scary at points. You may think I'm joking, but rest assured, I'm not. This fucking ghost haunted my dreams all throughout my childhood. And because of that, I think more parts of this film have stuck with me more than any other entry in the franchise. And it could have easily been number one. However, we have one more entry that I think brought the boys back in a very big way that's just way too hard to ignore. And just like that, we're at number one, my absolute favorite film in this franchise, and that is Ghostbusters Afterlife. Scream 2021, Halloween 2018, The Force Awakens. What do these three films have in common? Well, they're all sequels that bring back not only a classic franchise, but also the classic characters that made them great. Afterlife does just this, and it does it the best as far as I'm concerned. All three films that I talked about in the entirety of this video were all leading to this moment. They knew they made the wrong move in the eyes of the fans in 2016, and they wanted to make it up to them. Needless to say, I think they succeeded here. This is 100% the Ghostbusters 3 that we needed. Choosing to follow Egon's family decades after the original hauntings was honestly the best possible route they could have taken. What with Harold Ramis having long since passed before the film was even conceived, it only made sense that we would follow up with the Spangler family in the aftermath of the death of their patriarch. That, and with the inclusion of Gozer and his minions, this film really feels like a soft reboot as well as a sequel. It's a real homecoming of sorts. I'm also a huge Paul Rudd fan, and I think that his inclusion in the series is downright genius. Finally, I can't talk about this film without talking about their inclusion of Egon at the end of the film. Making Harold Ramis a CG ghost in order to interact with his family and stand alongside his fellow Ghostbusters one last time was done masterfully and tastefully. It made the perfect bridge between the original films and this new Ghostbusters era that we found ourselves in. Let's hope Frozen Empire keeps the momentum going. And there you have it. That was my ranking of the Ghostbusters films. What did you think about my ranking? How does yours differ from mine? Why not let me know down in the comments below? I'm mentally prepared to be held over the fire for my opinions on the original film, but why don't you also take a moment and share some of your Ghostbusters hot takes as well? Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button down below or dislike if you disliked it. I have another ranking as well as some reviews coming very, very soon, so take a moment and subscribe and hit the notification bell because I know you won't want to miss anything that's coming. Thanks again, Cinephiles, and until next time, may the Force be with you.